Four Nights in the Apocalypse chapter 148 is out, and man, another good chapter, I'm not gonna lie, as two big things happen within this chapter, one involving King and one involving the White Knight, and things in this chapter really make me believe that there are some very big consequences happening for the rest of Four Nights, and things are really starting to go in the way of Camelot, and I feel like we're really starting to feel the repercussions of it starting right now. But before we jump into this chapter, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps and it showcases you guys enjoy the content I'm making on the channel and shows you want to see more. This arc has been really picking up momentum, and I think we're definitely in the climax of it, as things are really being brought to a head. So let's jump right into things. So chapter 148 of Four Nights in the Apocalypse, titled Dark Clouds Looming, and the cover image is literally from the aftermath of last chapter, where Sixtus has been stabbed to the chest by a magical spear as he is staring down the White Knight with a gaping hole in his chest. And a closer image of Sixtus with this injury, and man, that is not good. He is in the donut club for sure. Worldane says, "Sweet dreams to you, my little fairy," as in that instance, everybody starts to feel Sixtus' magical power dissipating, as King notices, as well as Kilbegin tries to do a sneak attack from King as he is distracted. But Kilbegin is then stabbed right through the chest with verse form Chastityful, as this is seemingly the final blow essentially to really deal a massive hit to take him down. And just like that, King has increased a barrage of Chastityful swords ready to pierce through Kilbegin and just shred him to pieces. King says, "You could have survived if you just ran away." But Kilbegin starts laughing and says, "It was all worth it to get this close to you." He begins to say that it was all for this one moment, to prepare to face the curse of my blood, as Kilbegin's blood begins to gush out of his body and spray all over King, as King says that he's taking his own life. But Kilbegin says, "This is my true goal, to defeat the powerful foe that was such an eyesore to Worldane, my creator. And now right here, the mission is complete." So before we continue with this section, because this is a really big part of the chapter, Kilbegin fully confirms that he was created by Worldane, not Merlin like a lot of us thought, which means this could potentially end up confirming, or at least setting up, that Worldane, the White Knight of the Four Perils, might actually be Merlin's student. We've all been speculating maybe these powerful mages are the students of Merlin or stuff like that, so the evidence does show, and I would like this to be the case, and it would show why there's such grand mastery of magic and why the Fourth Peril is a powerful magic user as well. So that'd be a really cool twist to really add into the series, because I feel like Merlin would have another student in Camelot. I feel like that'd be just like her to do, just like she did with Vivian, only probably try to make sure she's not, you know how Vivian is. I'm not going to mention it because Vivian is just deranged. But back to the chapter, because this is a big thing. So after King is sprayed by Kilbegin's blood, he states that this is his mission complete. The blood begins to grow and encase King. As Kilbegin states, "So I stake my own life, my soul, to seal your powers away, Fairy King, casting the spell Deadly Soul Cursing Grudge." And I just love this image of King in his base form, essentially getting hit by the curse. So King is officially cursed right now. So this is something really interesting, and this does showcase that they had a plan in store for King. And if Sixtus went after Kilbegin and not King, then it would most definitely have been the better choice. But no, King had to take on the person that he thought was the strongest and most troublesome. So this ended up biting King in the butt, which I'm glad for. This adds more consequences, and we'll see what this curse essentially is. Deanne shows up on the battlefield as she runs towards King and manages to catch him as he's falling to the ground. Deanne asks King if he's okay, but he says he's just a bit dizzy. But Deanne notices something as the blood encasing him starts to crumble away. As in the next page, we see King in his OG form from Seven Deadly Sins with the tiny fairy wings. So the curse brought King back to his original form before he had his wings fully grown out, to the point where he was basically one of the stronger characters in the series. As Deanne mentions, King's magic force was sealed up, and that was the final curse from the Kilbegin, meaning that their plan was to seal King. They actively nerfed King, the Fairy King, and one of the 7 deadly sins. And I like how we're getting this pattern of the sins not being the unstoppable force of nature, unless they're Bon and, I guess, Meliodas, that they are anymore. As yes, they are incredibly powerful, and they are living legends that Arthur was very wary of, but now we have a section where a random knight was able to weaken Bon to 1/10 of his strength. Yes, Bon was still able to just dominate the fight, but it didn't kill or take down Ironside in one hit. He was still breathing, and he still had some fight left in him, even though it was best for him not to fight, as if he went back out there, he would have most surely died. And Gowther was basically one-shot by Beltrup in a surprise attack with a dimension-cutting sword, and now King's powers have been sealed by a curse from a creature created by one of the 4 perils. So it seems that what's going on right now is that we are really diving into the sins being nerfed or sealed or cursed in some way so that they can be dealt with. And based on this chapter, it is most 100% sure going to happen to other sins, but I doubt in the similar manner, so it shows that they have plans for the sins. But moving on, King in the end says that it's not really that important right now, as they sense that Sixtus was in mortal danger and they have to hurry. As we cut back to King's throne room, as Sixtus is just lying on the ground now with a gaping hole in his chest, as Worldane says, "I know full well the drug of yore is in this place. Would you mind telling me the location before you die?" But Sixtus is basically not gonna let the last word go out like that, as just says, "Even if I'm about to die, even if you were my preference in women, I'd never tell." So this basically confirms Worldane is a woman, and we'll see later on in the chapter. But Worldane then begins to chant a spell, as Sixtus then says the password for unlocking the drug of yore, as Sixtus can't control himself. So it's very likely that this spell essentially it's an interrogation type spell, and Sixtus is so weak that he's susceptible to it most likely. But Worldane, knowing the password, says it, but nothing happens. Worldane says that, I guess it only works the Fairy King has its own voice, and so chants another spell called Gallery of Memories, essentially replaying events from previous chapters where King was giving the drug of yore to Nazien, as Sixtus is there like, oh shit. Is this replaying memories embodied within this place? As Worldane says, okay, so the drug is there, but I have to see how he took it out. And so she ends up rewinding back to the point where King said the password. And so the drug of yore was summoned by the recording of the password. And so now, in a bright shine of light, Worldane has now officially gotten the drug of yore. I had a feeling there'd be something like this in order to get the drug of yore, because I feel like, as well as consequences for King's being sealed and his second son essentially being mortally injured and potentially dying, there is definitely consequences needed for this arc, and we are really getting them right now. The drug of yore seems to be in the hands of the enemy. King is nerfed beyond all pre-existence, so I'm pretty sure the 4 Perils could probably easily take him on, and maybe some other powerful Holy Knights from Camelot, maybe? I'm reaching right now. King was still pretty strong in that state, but if his power is fully sealed, then yeah, people can probably end up taking him on. But in this instance, Sixtus ends up coming to the realization why it's here. Nazians probably didn't accept this. I mean, King did kind of mention this to an extent, like Nazians rejected it, essentially. So I guess Sixtus was more focused on Myrtle's feelings about the drug and everything, so makes sense. Worldane says, well, that wraps up my work here, I guess I'll take my leave, as Worldane is then sucker punched by a giant golem, as in that instance the drug of yore is swiped from her hands by a vine, and her helmet and her glove end up falling off, as the rest of the Cayenne kids show up saying that they're here to save Sixtus. But Sixtus says, get away, she's real bad news, with the final page of the chapter being the face reveal of Worldane, the White Knight of the 4 Perils. And she's basically doing the ara meme at this point, and I kind of like it, as I love her design. Let's just say the face does it for me. And I will die on the hill that Nakaba really likes drawing mature women at this point, based off of the sheer bangers that he's drawn of the women in 7 Deadly Sins and 4 Knights of the Apocalypse at this point. I know this is a hot take, but legitimately, if you read 4 Knights of the Apocalypse up to this point, it's more or less MILF City. And to an extent, Dami Mommy, which I'm getting from this image. Obvious simping jokes aside, this was an intense chapter because not only did Kelbigan basically off himself to curse King to the point of his magic being sealed away, meaning that he might not even be able to actually or properly fight in his new state. We've actually got King in his original form from Seven Deadly Sins, which is really nice hit of nostalgia. It will make some very interesting interactions with his kids, because I doubt he showed himself in that form at all. If not, that base Fairy King form has just been his base form since the end of Seven Deadly Sins, which I would feel would be appropriate. Now we also have the Drug of Yore back in the hands of the Cayenne kids, but considering that Sixtus was dealt with so easily by this pretty cunning mage, they're probably going to end up being taken out, and this clip really does surmise my initial thoughts how this confrontation is going to play out.
They're gonna fucking die.
So yeah, I feel like they'll all either end up being slaughtered or they'll be just bodied and be brutally injured until Diane and King show up to actually help, and maybe Myrtle, Nazian, and Toyori. So we're definitely gearing up for the final confrontation. Honestly, I would just love for Diane at this section to, even if Worldain escapes and evades Diane and manages to take the Drug of Yore, I would just love to see Diane just go all out, full on pissed off mother wanting to defend and save the children that she loves, and just use Mother Earth Catastrophe. Would literally be probably the most fitting attack to really be done in this section of the story. And I just think that's probably one of her stronger attacks. She literally drops a mountain on people. But yeah, that was the chapter. I cannot wait to see the full-on repercussions of King's Curse. I wonder if this is temporary or if this will be permanent and they will have to find someone to break the curse. Perhaps Sixtus, or if not, perhaps this will be a quest to find Merlin. Or maybe Gawain could probably find a way to break the curse. We have no idea what she's been up to post time skip, same with Tristan and Lancelot, so maybe after this arc we'll find out what the rest of the four knights are up to. Because as much as I've been loving this arc, meeting back up with the Sins and how Team Percival has been dealing with things, I would love to just cut back in and see what's going on with the rest of the four knights, what they've been doing and how they've dealt with the time skip at this point, because I think we all kind of want to see their title characters again, even though I am liking the focus and development of Team Percival, and I feel like we'll get that with Team Tristan once we get into a Tristan-centric story. But yeah, this chapter was great. I cannot wait to see how this arc is finally going to conclude, as all the major players are finally going to meet up in one singular place. And one last theory before I go, a lot of people are probably speculating that Worldain might not even be the real name of the White Knight. It might actually be Morgan Le Fay or Morgana from Arthurian legend, because a lot of times she is an ally or an enemy to Arthur, sometimes manipulating Arthur, and it'd be really cool if one of Arthur's four strongest knights was secretly manipulating them, and that would be a nice twist. I feel like we all kind of want to see that whole twist, that Arthur was being manipulated or guided a certain way to the point where he got corrupted, and it would also add another layer if Worldain, who might end up being Morgan Le Fay, was trained by Merlin, and that would add another layer, as Merlin essentially created her own downfall and the downfall of someone that she fully believed in. So that would add a whole other thing to Merlin whenever we get to see her again. But that could be a video in and of itself when we get more information, probably when this arc ends. But what do you guys think of this video? Leave your thoughts, opinions, and theories in the comment section down below. And if you haven't already, once more, like and subscribe, hit the notification bell for updates on future videos, just so you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. Look, I'm just going to say this about Worldain. Would